Are there any local country laws that prevent you from letting go employees that you don't need anymore?
You know, Henry, in talking to working with our TSI partners, and that there are several countries that have very specific laws about how long, time off, other things that are much different than what you do in the U.S. If you'll notice, like particularly France and Germany, it's very difficult um, to remove an employee from service from there. It's a very long process and different things that have to go through. So you will find, based on certain countries, that there are laws that prevent. So it makes sure that you've got to make a good decision about hiring and what you're doing and your business practices there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are there languages or customs that don't transcend across borders?
Um, you know what? Languages, in my experience, English still is the language of business. So no matter where, and as I do, whether I've been in China, Dubai, doesn't matter where I am, English still will, suffice for you. Now, as far as, but of course, you miss out on some nuances if you understand the local language, though, too. You can miss out if you're not speaking that language. As far as customs, each one of the has some different customs where you do have to be careful because a gesture or something that you do here in the U.S., maybe as simple as a handshake or whatever, is not acceptable in another country from there. I strongly recommend that anytime you're going to countries to pop out, a number of different sites that you can pop out and take a look at real quickly, and I do that too, just to understand real quickly if I've forgotten something or whatever, to say, what's the acceptable business practices.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better to pay foreign employees in U.S. dollars or in foreign currency?
You know what? There are a number of factors with this one, and talking. Typically, you prefer to pay in the foreign currency because you don't have the exchange rate and all that kind of stuff for the employee. That said, you need to put a compensation package together. If let's say you're taking a U.S. employee and putting them over there, you need to look at what your local what your local requires, and then pack it, and then put a commensurate package together. And sometimes what you end up doing is that you've got to take a look at, it really becomes down to the taxes and stuff like that. And so you've got to look at all of those things, and you might put together what's called a hypothetical tax or some other things with that the employee is paying to make sure at the end of the year that they're not, caught because of what's owed and that kind of stuff, and specific rules from there. As long as you can work out the tax stuff, typically you would want to pay, if you can, in the foreign currency, to give them an advantage so they can live at the level that they need to live at from there, unless there's an exchange rate issue from there.
Okay. Are there any local practices on hiring or firing employees?
That's almost the same as the first question that you have from there, and there are going to be different and specific things. I mean, just think about, there are different rules and regulations that you have to look at just in the U.S. between the different states. So you don't even have to go internationally to take a look at it. You do have different rules and regulations that you do have to be aware of in terms of hiring practices, what formal things that you have to include, not include in there, and then also as you go through firing. I mean, just as you know, Texas is, at will state in terms of much different than some other states.
Okay. Is there a specific training required that makes foreign employees harder to prepare for the job?
In regards to this one, is there specific training required? I wouldn't say. I think, again, it all comes down to what is the particular job and what are the requirements. And if you're hiring for the right skill sets, then you shouldn't be concerned about this particular issue from there. I do think that you have to keep in mind that if you hire a foreign employee, and if English is the second or third language, then you need to understand that and compensate, because it may not translate in terms of what you are doing or what you're trying to get across in terms of that. I mean, we've had where we have utilized employees, let's say in the Philippines and that kind of for our services. And what we find is that sometimes their knowledge level, they may understand travel, but there's a difference of someone sitting in the Philippines understanding that there's 3 airports in New York, because someone in the U.S. really understands that JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, and all those are, from that, it's not just a geography for them and understanding that. Also, sometimes the language can be an issue for people too, that you do have to think about that when you, if you're going to require them to interface with U.S., people get concerned with accents and things like that. And so that may be something that you have to take a look at. But I don't know that I would call it training. I would call that more in terms of your hiring and your job description and skill sets that you're looking for up front, knowing that those are the things that you need. So you would try to vet those things out during the interview process.
Do you have to have local ownership in countries to hire people?
In certain countries, you're going to. You know, in terms of doing that you you may, because of you're not allowed to, you know, you've got payments, you've got all kinds of other things that you've got to work out, and you're just not, you know, you might not be able to have ownership or things like that. Now, theoretically, you could hire someone, say, in Poland, and with remote and everything today nowadays to do that, but then you're still going to be held accountable to understand how you're going to pay, what are the laws, and be responsible for all that kind of stuff. So you in some cases, you're going to want to have, you know, local ownership so that you don't have to manage. Also, the other thing is that understanding pay scales and all that kind of stuff, you're better off, you know, like we use for some of our software developers and that kind of stuff. We use the firm over there because they can source and bring those folks in much easier than if we went to try to source and bring those people on our particular payroll. Okay?
And those are all the questions for today.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you very much.